before the game begins. It's the pregame. With your host, Charles Bishop and Neely. So get ready, because we pregame harder than the other show's party. It's the pregame.
Your ad could be ran here. MyJBN.com/support. MyJBN.com/support for more information.
Time to call a credit repair company to fix my credit.
Hold the phone, man. You can do it yourself with Credit Versio.
That's way too hard. Call the credit repair company. Most credit repair companies only work on 1 or 2 accounts at a time, making it slow and expensive. You won't figure that out for months. Ignore him. Credit Versio's brilliant software scans all 3 credit bureaus, finds the accounts that are hurting your score, and guides you through the entire process. Anyone can do it. Let's fast forward and see the results. Wow, I fixed my own credit and saved hundreds. You can do this. Visit creditversio.com.
At CDW, we get speed as the new currency of success.
Our team spends way too much time tending to outdated applications and software when they should be focused on driving application agility and innovation.
CDW Amplify Development Services modernizes software and application development to help accelerate innovation and digital transformation.
So you mean building new applications, UI, and mobile interfaces?
Well, you said you needed to innovate more quickly.
Oh, so he's a listener.
To do more at scale, trust CDW Amplify Development Services.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids' apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
Are you hungry for authentic Caribbean food like jerk chicken, oxtail, red snapper, shrimp, tofu, and rasta pasta? Well, find your way over to Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta.
Them belly full, but we hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, open daily from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. And on Friday and Saturday, we're open till 4 a.m. Come to Mango's and put some spice in your life.
So we've got a good thing going.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta. For more info or directions, call 404-698-3992 or log on to mangoscaribbeanrestaurant.com. For instant coupons, text MANGOS to 313131.
Tell your mama hungry, papa hungry, brother hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, authentic Caribbean cuisines.
Open up the door, tell your mama hungry.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge, featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. That's www.slowburnwaco.com.
It's like a loop machine. All around town, trying to get down. It's like a loop machine.
It's the show where we take you inside the game before the game begins. It's the pregame. With your host, Charles Bishop and Neely. So get ready, because we pregame harder than the other show's party. It's the pregame.
Your ad could be ran here. MyJBN.com/support. MyJBN.com/support for more information.
Time to call a credit repair company to fix my credit.
Hold the phone, man. You can do it yourself with Credit Versio.
That's way too hard. Call the credit repair company. Most credit repair companies only work on 1 or 2 accounts at a time, making it slow and expensive. You won't figure that out for months. Ignore him. Credit Versio's brilliant software scans all 3 credit bureaus, finds the accounts that are hurting your score, and guides you through the entire process. Anyone can do it. Let's fast forward and see the results. Wow, I fixed my own credit and saved hundreds. You can do this. Visit creditversio.com.
At CDW, we get speed as the new currency of success.
Our team spends way too much time tending to outdated applications and software when they should be focused on driving application agility and innovation.
CDW Amplified Development Services modernizes software and application development to help accelerate innovation and digital transformation.
So you mean building new applications, UI, and mobile interfaces?
Well, you said you needed to innovate more quickly.
Oh, so he's a listener.
To do more at scale, trust CDW Amplified Development Services.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids' apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
Are you hungry for authentic Caribbean food like jerk chicken, oxtail, red snapper, shrimp, tofu, and rasta pasta? Well, find your way over to Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta.
Them belly full, but we hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, open daily from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. And on Friday and Saturday, we're open till 4 a.m. Come to Mango's and put some spice in your life.
So we've got a good thing going.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta. For more info or directions, call 404-698-3992 or log on to mangoscaribbeanrestaurant.com. For instant coupons, text MANGOS to 313131.
Tell your mama hungry, papa hungry, brother hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, authentic Caribbean cuisines.
Open up the door, tell your mama hungry.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here.
But earmuff used to your heart.
Here we go. Still can't hear anything. All right, hello and welcome to another live edition of the BCSN SportsWrap. I'm Bryan Fulford, and that's AD Drew here on this second Sunday of 2023. AD, have you gotten adjusted to 2023 yet? It's kicked me in the tail. I'm just gonna be honest with you. It's already dragged me into February. How you doing?
I'm doing fine, my brother. You know, back in the day when you used to have to write checks and actually physically sign everything, you know, this would be that time of the year when I would still be putting 2022 on everything. But since we don't do things like that anymore, it really hasn't. Exactly, Paul. Y'all young folk. That's what we did before we had Cash App. We wrote checks and Zelle and everything else.
Hey, can you imagine trying to loan? So can you imagine when you had to loan money to somebody and somebody, hey man, can I get $20? Or when you had to ask your family for some money, Grandma, can you put a check in the mail? Can you
No,
put
no,
a
no,
check in the
no.
mail? Send me
Brian,
$25, Grandma.
you're forgetting about the other part. Hey, hold that till Friday, dog. I'm gonna write this to you, but hold that till Friday, man.
Exactly. You post date. No, what you do is you post date that check.
Post
That's how
date
you
it.
cover that. You post
Yeah.
date. You be like, man, don't cash
Hey,
this
hey,
until
hey,
Friday. You be
hey, Brian, you cash that check yet? Good, man. Don't hold it till Friday, bro. Hold it till Friday. Promise me you gonna hold it till Friday.
boy. I tell you, they created a checking system and didn't properly tell us how to use it or show us how to use it. But it is what it is. Financial systems of these days, I guess, right? Yeah.
Same thing with those credit
Uh
card people who was on campus freshman year, and next thing you
Giving
know,
away
you got a
T-shirts,
420 T-shirt,
yeah,
cups, and
water bottles.
stuff. 99 cents and for 20 years of debt.
Exactly. Like, what the hell I'm gonna do with it? You thought you were doing something. Thought you were doing something, man. But I tell you
Hey,
nowadays,
I got 3 credit cards, man. How many you got?
yeah, yeah. And while you may be somebody that I don't know how you feel about it, but obviously, I had a kick this past week on sort of a non-sports related as we did. I mean, look, there was a little bit of history happening on Capitol Hill. Those of you, just to take a little left turn in the world of politics, where we had a speaker vote that went 15 rounds, like an old Ali Frazier heavyweight fight that went 15 rounds. Something that had never happened before. And I found myself on each day, Drew. Obviously because I'm at a school, and every day I found myself trying to let students know, hey, this is historic. This is happening. All the while I'm getting blank stares, like, what? What's happening? What's going on Capitol Hill? And I'm like, damn, is really nobody's talking about this. And after a while, I kept
Did
saying,
anybody
Drew,
ask you where
how many
Capitol Hill
times?
was?
Oh, thankfully, no. Thankfully, that didn't happen. But I did have to go through the chain of succession in the United States a few times to find out. Do you know who the number 3 person in charge is? And they all kind of were like, "Who's number 2?" And I said, "Holy cow!" I said, "Wait a second." So I ain't talking bad about my fellow teachers in government and history, but man, by the
Civics.
time they get to high civics, thank you, civics, government, AP, whatever, man, we got to help these kids. These kids need to know at least the first, at least the first 3. Can we get them the first 3? Let them know.
Exactly.
Show them the TV show. What was the TV show with Designated Survivor? Let them watch that if nothing else. Give them some
Uh, uh,
reality that.
hey, Brian, you remember with Schoolhouse Rock and everything else? I'm just a bill, an old
Yeah,
fashioned bill.
yeah, yeah.
So
I kept trying to look at it and try to draw sports parallels as what Kevin McCarthy was going through, and I'm like, how many times can you be technically a loser within your own party and still come back for more? I mean, I know initially people were drawing, I said, what's a sports parallel? Instantly people go to the Bills, 4 Super Bowls in 4 losses, 4 years. I don't know, if I thought, what was that long winning streak by, or long losing streak by? Was it Prairie View or Alcorn that had that long losing streak of something like 50 something games? Or
Prairie View had a long losing streak in the starting in the late 80s into the 90s. I believe it was like 90 some odd in a row. And let's not forget
Mhm.
recently, Savannah State just had a long losing streak before they dropped down to Division 2 in football also. Let me give you a couple other sports parallels that I came up with, Brian. in response to your
Okay.
tweet.
Okay.
How,
Let me hear it. Let me
how
hear it.
about the, how about the Lakers from the '60s getting to the finals? I
Tell me.
believe nine. Got to the finals, I believe 9 times before they finally won it in 1972, in the '60s into the early '70s. After moving to Los
Yes.
Angeles.
Yes. Jerry West, the
Yeah,
ultimate. Well, I don't want to call him the ultimate loser, but the one of the losingest players in the NBA Hall of Fame, maybe
yeah. And think
in
about if you
terms of losses and championships.
yeah. And think about poor Elgin Baylor, who retired during the season that they ultimately won the championship, but was there for all the losses.
Brutal.
Brutal.
Hopefully they gave him a ring. Hopefully they gave him
Yeah,
a ring for that one.
yeah. Matter of fact, here's something that most people don't know: the 33 game winning streak that they went on started the day after Elgin Baylor retired during that season.
Mm, mm.
So
I don't look. I don't know my history well enough to say, But that's what was the thing that Arsenio? This is another old reference for you young folks.
things that make you
Arsenio Hall
go,
used to say, "What's that? Yeah, things that make you say,
yeah.
yeah,
Let me
that
give
was kind of interesting."
Let me give you another couple of parallels. How about the Minnesota Vikings of the 1970s?
Oh
0-4
yes,
in Super Bowl. In
yes.
Super Bowls.
The first 0-4 Super Bowl team.
Yes,
Before the Bills, there were the Vikings. I remember that.
correct. Baseball parallel. How about the Brooklyn Dodgers in the 40s and 50s?
Tell me more.
Remember, they went 0 for 8 before they finally defeated the New York Yankees. I believe it was 1956 when they finally defeated the New York Yankees. But they were 0 for 8 at that point. All against the Yankees, ironically.
Would you include the while we're talking baseball, would you include the Atlanta Braves in all of the years that they won their division and never won the World Series up until that year when they won it in '95, or does that?
Let's
I don't know when that happened.
It was 95, but let's take that one step further. They kept
Uh-huh.
getting there and never could get to the World Series.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe that's what it
Yeah.
was. Yeah.
No, check that. They got to the World Series. It was the Pittsburgh Pirates who could never win, who could never beat the
Mm-hmm.
Braves in the LDS. And that was the Barry
Mm-hmm.
Bonds Pittsburgh Pirates. That was before the large head, when he still had a normal size head. I'm just trying to think of some other sports parallels that you could think about in there. You know, there's a lot of them, and if y'all got some, throw them in the chat. Those are some of the good ones uh, that I thought of, Brian. So
Yeah, well,
yeah,
that was how my week kind of went between in terms of just general observations of what's happening around the world around us. Let's get into talking about the just a few sports news and notes here before we get into some of the more major stuff that we wanted to get into. I thought one of the stories that needed to bring out was we have a couple of head coaching final decisions, and Drew, you've been pretty good at recapping and telling us where we are in terms of head coaches and final positions out there, or what we have. So after I mentioned the North Carolina A&T hire of Vincent Brown, you may want to tell me where things are. But Vincent Brown, former NFL All-Pro and Mississippi Valley State linebacker, is now the next head coach at North Carolina A&T. I'm reading right from HBCUsports.com. Brown, in a statement, said he was humbled and honored to be in this position to lead this program, thanking the Chancellor Martin and Athletic Director Hilton, all those involved in the search process, and entrusting the future of these young men into our hands. Now, Brown spent the past 4 seasons as William and Mary's associate head coach, DC, and linebacker coach. 2022, William and Mary. I believe William and Mary is coached by Mike London, if I'm not mistaken, former Howard head coach. Would that be correct as best as you know it, Drew?
I believe he's somewhere in the CAA, and I do believe that is his landing spot.
Right. In 2022, William and Mary went 11-2 overall, 7-1 in the CAA, and they had a share of the regular season title, reached the Division I FCS playoffs. Just reading here from what Hilton or Chancellor Martin was saying here, it seems like a good fit because, one, you got a head coach that understands the division that you're moving into, the CAA. He understands its competitors. So that's a big plus, big advantage, big feather in the cap for A&T. Somebody who's had some success in that division as well. And then you've also got someone who has your HBCU ties. And so he understands that and understands what it means and how the culture and the atmosphere and talking to your alumni, it's just a little bit different than probably what it is at William and Mary,
A little bit.
And so Brown, yeah, smidge, just a little bit. In case you didn't know, Brown was a 1988 second round draft pick of the New England Patriots and a 3-time All-Pro linebacker, first being an All-American linebacker at Mississippi Valley State. He has coaching stops along the way at Howard University, UConn, and University of Virginia, Richmond, and was a Dallas Cowboys assistant as late as 2006. Drew, any thoughts? And I'm remiss. Sadly, I didn't reach out to our good friend Jamie Walker, to get his take on this. And what's your take on Coach Vincent Brown now taking over North Carolina A&T Aggies?
Well, once again, I'm start off. I hate to see that Coach Sam Washington was let go at North Carolina A&T, but given the circumstances, I don't think you could have gotten a better hire, probably outside of an A&T alum who was already in the conference. I think this was a good hire, HBCU roots, and I believe he was on staff with London when he was at Howard, Brian, also. Would that be correct?
That would make sense. Yeah. I mean, it says he had coaching stops at Howard. So, I mean, if you
Yes, I believe
tied
he
it
was on.
together, it would make sense.
Yeah. So yeah, I think this is gonna be a good hire. Should make sure that A&T comes into the CAA competitive from the beginning, not expecting them to win a championship off the rip. But if there's anyone who understands the lay of the land, it would be somebody who is coming from there and also understands the HBCU culture. The extended halftime won't bother him as much as a coach who doesn't understand the HBCU culture and all the different things that go on around HBCU football games. So I think it's a good hire.
All right. So, again, North Carolina A&T will debut their football program in the CAA. Wait a minute. How many A's did I just put in there?
I think you put an
There's like
extra one. It's
triple
only
A.
two A's. It's two A's.
Right, I put like a triple A, yeah, too. The CA and the Colonial. I just call it the Colonial.
Yeah.
This upcoming fall, whereas all their other sports are there, and we'll talk about some of those other sports as one particular program is off to a great start in the Colonial. Another head coaching hire. So before you get into doing the tally here and tell us where we're at, Drew, and this one I know comes courtesy of you via d2football.com. Tuskegee University announced on Friday that current offensive coordinator and alumnus, former quarterback Aaron James will officially be the 18th head football coach this upcoming week, Tuesday, January 10th. As university president, Dr. Charlotte P. Morris will introduce James, along with Director of Athletics Reginald Ruffin will be present at the press conference. Of course, it was already determined back prior to the beginning of the 2022 season by Coach Ruffin that James would take over, and that would allow Ruffin to take on the athletic director role in a full-time capacity. James, who spent a season as an OC at Bethune-Cookman, spent 9 seasons at Miles, presumably with Ruffin. Well, yeah, no, it had to be with Ruffin because he was a part of those 4 SIC championships on that Miles team.
I don't think he was there for the
But
last season with Ruffin. I think James got there a year before Ruffin, and then he left a year before Ruffin, if I've got my time correct.
But he's got some years. He's got some time put in. Also served as a quarterbacks coach of Lane College and Clark Atlanta. So he's got deep. Of course, he has deep SIAC ties, not only as a player but also as a coach. What I found interesting, looking at his history, while at Tuskegee, leading the Golden Tigers, amassed a 42-5 record as a starter. He has the most wins of any signal caller in Golden Tigers history. Won 3 SIC titles during his career. Was the quarterback of the 12-0 national championship team in 2000. Was an
That was under
All-American
Coach
selection.
Comedy.
All-American selection after the 01 season. Played professionally for the Alabama Lightning of the NAFL. I don't know what that is, but was that an indoor league or a semi-pro
I
league?
believe that was an indoor league. Don't quote me on that though.
Okay. All right. So with that said, James is there, and I don't know what obviously this is sort of the coronation we kind of knew was coming, Drew. Anything that we don't know already that you can add about Coach James coming on board there at Tuskegee?
No, I think there's going to be pretty much continuity with the staff. Most of the staff that is there will probably remain outside of them getting, other opportunities with other institutions. But this is the continuity move. You knew he was coming. He was coaching, waiting. So, for James to take over it's every coach's dream. Well, I ain't gonna say it's most coaches' dream to take over their alma mater and lead their alma mater to glory and to victory. Coach Ruffin got in there right at the ship this season by winning the SIAC West crown. Now, with the new scheduling format in the SIAC, it's going to be a little bit more of a challenge for Coach James, but I think I think this is a good hire. I know the alumni and the community are 100% behind this move, moving on to Coach James.
Hey, what is the as I was just thinking about, and just remind people again what the scheduling format of the SIC will look like again, just in case people have forgotten.
They are doing away with divisions. They're going to an 8-game schedule model. The model is out. People know their opponents. They don't know the timing. We don't know if that 8 game is going to be a 8 out of 10, such as the CIAA, or will it be a 7+1, such as conferences such as the SAC and the Gulf South? Yeah, that's important as all these teams compete in the same region in for the Division II playoffs. So it's going to be important. Getting that 8th game was important because all the other conferences play 8 conference games. So that portion of it we don't know. But the most important thing about that, it will be the top 2 teams in the SIAC playing for the SIAC championship, which is a switch instead of the 2 division winners. And also the game will be at a predetermined neutral site, not at the home of the team. Well, they went by division. They alternated divisions, east west. or not by the team with the best record, i.e., the SWAC model.
Right, right. Um, I see a couple of Chuck Hunt there saying he remembers Vincent Brown when he played at Valley. Feel free to share some thoughts about what you remember. Any games that kind of stand out. Anything that comes to memory, Chuck. Um, I see Marion 305 also mentioned, of course, Ed Reed. I feel like did we mention Ed Reed last week? I think we did, but
I was on multiple podcasts, Brian. I don't even know if we talked about
I
it
know
on
you
our podcast because I know I was on
right,
about two
right.
podcasts. Yeah,
Well,
and according to
I
my
can't remember
go ahead.
because I
Same
just
thing. You were on
remember.
multiple podcasts also.
Yeah, yeah. It was over the break. So anyway, mine is kind of foggy over the last couple of weeks. Yeah, of course, the news about Ed Reed. I think we did talk about that. So where does that put us in terms of? I don't know if you had a chance to kind of to look at the mix. Where we at in terms of coaches, vacancies, interims, so on and so forth that you recall?
To my, to my knowledge, the only vacancy is at Morehouse currently, right now,
Okay.
which is obviously in the SIAC. All of our Division One jobs have not been filled, with the ENT job being filled. Uh, don't know the status of State, Bowie State. They had interims. Don't know if those people have gotten the job on a permanent basis, or will they be looking to make a change? Uh, you know, removing the title of interim and giving them the head coaching position, or go with an outside candidate.
Right. We did we. I think we also last week might have mentioned Quinn Gray becoming the head
Yes, I know we
coach
mentioned
at.
Quinn Gray.
We did mention Quinn Gray at Albany State,
Oh,
rather.
yes, right.
And so, yeah, yeah. A lot of assistant coach shufflings will be happening. I noticed David Garner pointing out Coach Tony Hall is believed to be the new offensive coordinator at Grambling, and just kind of doing a quick little Google search on who Tony Hall was, considered to be one of the top coaches or more respected coaches within the state of Louisiana. I guess the past couple seasons he's been at the University of Louisiana Monroe. Previously was at Kansas, might even been Kansas and LSU with Les Miles. If I read the background at first, but there's going to be a lot of staff shuffling things going around, and obviously one of the staffs that we're all going to be keeping our eyes on is seeing what type of staff Ed Reed builds at Bethune. We're also going to be looking to see what type of staff TC Taylor builds at Jackson State. Jackson State not sitting back at all in terms of quality players that are coming to Jackson State. Obviously, yeah, they're still losing guys, but they're picking up guys. So the cupboard is not all bare at Jackson State. So don't be ready to kick dirt on the Tigers. Just yet. You're gonna have to. Folks are gonna have to go into Jackson and take W's from those guys. I just got that feeling. I think I read something about. Oh, I wish I could have saved this. You see so much stuff over the course of the week, Drew. I thought I saw a potential of somebody coming over to work with Dawson Odoms over at Norfolk State, and it may have been somebody who was I don't know, somebody who was recently fired. You guys on the chat, let us know if you saw that story, or I don't know if that was just conjecture or rumor. There's Well, I don't know. I saw Jim Caldwell's name. I forgot which HBCU job did I see Jim Caldwell's name leaked to?
I do remember seeing his name, but I don't remember which one it was.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So that's pretty much before we go to the break. Let's talk about one of the bigger stories that took place over the past 48 hours, and that's the story of the Fisk University women's gymnastics team competing in their first ever NCAA meet on the weekend on Friday. Of course, hey, look, in terms of a non-basketball, non-football story, but just a a good story. I mean, this is a great story to start the year. Um, I think on Friday they competed in a 2-day Super 16 event in Las Vegas. And I think this was now, if I read the stories right, I was looking to see what teams were actually competing in this. I thought it might have been like four teams, four other programs that competed against this. I don't know. I guess we have to start learning gy- the rules of gymnastics now instead of just watching, paying attention during the Olympics. I
Yeah,
guess we have
yeah.
to pay attention. But one of the things that
I know Simone Biles. That's all I can tell you about gymnastics.
Well, as I went down the rabbit hole of reading articles, I ended up on stories about the young girl over at LSU who's like the number one TikTok girl, and she's got like a legion of crazed fans that follow her everywhere. And they were at an event, and they got people from other schools complaining about, oh, these boys are like, just all they want to do is see her, and I don't know. Anyway, but I went down the dark path of following women's gymnastics. So anyway, but back to our story that we were talking about, Fisk University here, and I'm reading a little bit from HBCU Sports. I had a link pulled up, Drew, on ESPN from the story that they did. So I don't know if you can counter if you pull that link up, and I'll read what I'm pulling up here from HBCU Sports. So on the first day, Fisk finished with a total score of 186.700, which was good for fourth place in session one. Fisk hit the ground running as Naima Muhammad led off by showing her tumbling skills, earning a score of 9.6 on the floor exercises due to a double tuck maneuver. Props to Avery Wiggins here, who wrote this for HBCU Sports, because hey, look, I mean, you're taking us into a world that we are not familiar with. So props for educating us. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't ask me what a double tuck maneuver is. That sounds like trouble that I have getting up out of sometimes, a double tuck maneuver. But anyway, uh, Kylie McDonald, Kiara Richmond, Zyla Coleman earned scores of 9.475, 9.7, and 9.6 respectively on the floor exercises. I do know the high score is a 10. That part I do know from the Olympics, Drew. So two other notable performers for the day were Liberty Mora and Morgan Price. Morgan executed a dance routine on the mat that ended with her landing a double pike. Drew, I'd give to have you explain what a double pike is. That's your homework assignment for next show. To and to add video coverage of what a double pike is. Now Morgan Price is the highly touted recruit who flipped from Arkansas to Fisk, and she earned a 9.9 on the vault. Which was Fisk's first vault competition. So head coach Corrine Tarver, the first black woman to ever win at the NCAA All-Around in 1989, was well aware of the significance of the moment, having spoken to ESPN about how they have been embraced by the other programs as they take this one giant step on behalf of HBCUs. One thing that I will say, Drew, and it was kind of cool seeing other programs recognized today, but I saw, and when you look at some of you see programs in gymnastics that, like I saw a Southern Utah, and maybe, you're going to see your SECs, you're going to see your powers, but you also see what we would consider mid-majors from other leagues, and I'm speaking when I saw Southern Utah, that's impressive, I think what it shows is if schools decide to enter into spaces where they can financially support it or have the ability to support it, that's a pretty cool thing. I mean, I know we've had some programs venture into wrestling. We've had some programs. I think I saw Morgan State trying to get in lacrosse. Brian Simpkins.
I was gonna say Allen has
What were
both
you gonna say?
men's and women's. I would say Allen has both men's and women's wrestling on the Division II level, and I believe
Okay.
Morgan is starting back their wrestling program.
Okay, that's where I may have seen that, where Morgan's starting up their wrestling. I know Brian Simpkins has been talking to us for a few years since we've known and talked with him about HBCU lacrosse and seeing more lacrosse programs. And I think what we really love, and this the more we talk about representation and seeing more of our student athletes, and we say our HBCU community athletes that can go to Fisk University, can compete in a sport that they love, compete against other programs, and then still come home at the end of the day and receive the HBCU educational, environmental, network connection that we all love and that we all talk about and that we admire and that we grew out of and we foster and we support. That's powerful. So all props to Fisk University. And I think it deserves there's a little bit of time. I mean, we got to find time to mention him and really talk about it. And don't be shy about, look, and I'm gonna tell this to other media folk, don't just talk about it in the simple terms. Like as I read the articles, I'm curious about how much does it take to fund. What is the competition like? How many are there? We start drawing comparisons to other sports, like, right? That's how we kind of gain an understanding of things. Like, we have a model of understanding of how football, basketball, baseball work. Now in these other sports, how are they comparative in that model? You know what I'm saying? Do you have
Yeah.
conference tournaments? Do you have what does your schedule look like? How many meets do you compete in? What type of budget, what type of travel budget? I know this was a program that it took, I think I read 15 months to get off the ground. So I mean, they started this back in, I think what that would be 2021.
2020,
yeah, 20. Yeah, so it took about 2 years to actually fund it, cross
equipment,
the T's,
training facility, Wait a
figure
minute.
out how you're
I
going
don't
to
care.
do it.
You got to get the athletes in there.
You got to convince kids. You got to start convincing kids. Yeah. You got to start that whole process of convincing students on how to.
Speaking of convincing students, Morgan Price
Mm-hmm.
was a 5-star commitment to, I just saw the school where she was a commitment to. I'm reading this article off of
Arkansas.
ESPN.
Arkansas.
Arkansas. Decided to come to HBCU.
Yeah, Arkansas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the four teams that were in this meet were North Carolina, Southern Utah, and Washington. with 4
Okay.
teams in this event that was held in Las Vegas, according to ESPN.
Man. Right. So yeah, I think Fisk University is on to something, and it's a way to, it's one of those opportunities to separate yourself.
I got
In a
one other thing that
sport.
I need to know about, Brian. Sorry to cut you off.
What's that? No,
One
no, go
other
ahead.
thing. I'm looking at this. Fisk finishing fourth with 186.700 points. So the Utah won with 195.800 points. Is that a blowout? Was that a competitive score? I would like to understand the scoring here.
Wait a minute. Give that again. Say that again for me, for folks, for me.
Southern Utah won with a combined team score of 195.8. Fisk wound up in
195.
fourth place. Fisk wound up in fourth place with a score of 186.7. And they say Southern Utah narrowly topped Washington by 0.325 for first place. So there was a difference of 0.325 between first place and second place. I wanted, like I said, was that 186 to 195? Is that considered competitive, or is that considered a blowout? Just so I can get a frame of reference here. I'm not a gymnast person, so
Yeah. Well, good point, because you're talking a difference of what's
10
my
points,
math doing?
9 points.
8.1.
That's 9 points.
8.1.
Yeah,
8.1. Oh, that's 195 to 187.7. That's 8 point.
and 186.7. So
Oh,
it's 9.1.
186.7. Okay.
Yeah, that would be
9.1.
9.1.
Okay. Yeah. Well, look. As I look on the website, so I think how this works is I'm looking at Fisk website. So they match up against each opponent. You kind of look at your scores against each opponent. For example, and I'm assuming this is all rounded up, it shows that they competed against University of Washington, University of North Carolina, Southern Utah. And it was 195 to 188, 194 to 188, 195 to 188. Unofficially, Drew, if you had to ask me, I think it's kind of like bowling scores, where you kind of total up what everybody did, and then you see what your total is, and then you compare it to everybody else and say, okay, well, 195 was the high, and obviously 195.8 finished first, 195.7 finished second. Obviously North Carolina finished 194. You're not that far. You're not that far off. I don't know if it's a blowout, but that's a great question. Okay, so here's what's next. Off of the weekend that they had at the Super 16, the Fisk Bulldogs, the gymnasts, will head out to University of Michigan for a tri-meet. Obviously, tri meaning 3. So the 3 schools are University of Michigan, who's the host, University of Denver. Drew, pop quiz. Can you name the other sport that the University of Denver is probably more known for in intercollegiate athletics?
I'll go guess wrestling just to go off the wall.
Hockey. I've heard the University of Denver mentioned more in hockey than I have in wrestling. David Garner dropping Kevin Coleman transferring to Louisville, huh? Not going to Colorado.
Yeah, I saw that.
That's interesting.
I saw that yesterday.
Ooh, that bag must be pretty big at Louisville, boy. I tell you what, that bag at Louisville, they must be dropping some cash money. Don't sleep.
Louisville is a 5-hour drive from home for Kevin Coleman. Colorado is a flight from home for Kevin Coleman.
That means the bag need to be bigger if you want me to come to Colorado, Coach. That's probably what he told him. Don't believe that. Hey, I'm gonna tell you what. If you don't think NIL runs these decisions, you guys are missing the boat. As I talk to more and more people who are working in the background, hey, these guys aren't just making these moves because of just what Drew said, because of just, hey, I live closer to mom and daddy. Nah, Louisville's bag is a lot bigger than maybe what Colorado's dropping. So I'm just want to
and it's not as
put
cold
that
there
out there.
either.
Man, I don't know. Louisville can get cold.
Yeah,
Louisville can
Denver
get
is
cold.
a different type of cold.
Oh, well, okay. But anyway,
Let's take
that's
this break, Brian.
January 13th. January 13th, Fisk University. That's the tri-meet. And then for those of you in the South, they will be competing at the University of Georgia quad meet on January 16th. Now, that I think is about the MLK weekend, if I'm not mistaken. That might be Monday.
That's the Monday. That's the Monday. That's holiday.
Yeah.
That's the Monday.
Okay, so that's going to be in Athens, Georgia. So you've got the University of Georgia, Ohio State, and Rutgers University. So if you are in the Midwest and got a chance to get over to University of Michigan to go support the Fisk gymnastics team, go do that. Obviously, if you're in the South, if you're in the Georgia, if you're in the A, go catch these ladies at the University of Georgia on January 16th. All right, let's take a break. Come back. Let's get into talking with some hoops. Big week in the SWAC as they put on a full display, full week of action in the SWAC. So we'll talk about the men and women's teams and their successes and failures and all that good stuff on the other side. You're watching the BCSN Sports Wrap. Brian and AD here. We'll be back in just a moment.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge, featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. That's www.slowburnwaco.com.
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavill of Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
Mobile banking from Truist actually works for you. It gives you simple, smart, personalized insights to keep you one step ahead. Because we think that's the kind of control you deserve over your money. When you start with care, you get a different kind of bank. Truist. Download the mobile app now.
At Tyson, we know taste is local. Some like their beef pit smoked, their chicken spiced all the way up, or their pork sweet and saucy. Local flavors, global impact. That's what feeding the world is all about.
It's like a loop machine. All around town, people trying to get down. It's like a loop machine.
It's the show where we take you inside the game before the game.
All right, welcome back to the BCSN Sports Wrap. Brian and AD here, and just want to kind of go through some of the hoops action from throughout the past week. As obviously conference play on the Division I level is in full tilt now. The MEAC finally started their season on Saturday. The SWAC all week. Of course, on the Division II and NAIA level, they have already been playing some games. So as I was trying to pull up my trusted, why are you giving me baseball standings anyway? Trying to get to my trusty basketball standings here in the SIC. Nothing wants to work right. Our headline, excuse me, our headline story comes right from our own headlines, as AD Drew captured the fact that not only one but two head men's basketball coaches hit their 400th career wins with wins on Saturday. And we're talking Fred Watson at Miles and Bryan Fulford at West Virginia State. West Virginia State picked up win number 400 for Coach Fulford with a 106-76 victory over West Virginia Wesleyan. And Miles picked up a 70-64 win over Lane about an hour later for Coach Watson, as now both coaches have reached the 400 win plateau. For Watson, 300 of his 20 victories came at Benedict, the last 80, of course, coming with the Golden Bears. And of course, Watson is an is an alum of Miles.
Benedict.
So, he got a chance.
He's a Benedict
Yeah,
alum.
I'm sorry. Okay, yeah, I should have continued reading there. Watson, a graduate of Benedict in 99, became the head coach just 3 years later in 02, 03, that season, as he coached that team. I'm just all over the place here and read. I can't read here. I should have just read it here, Drew. I'm trying to paraphrase here. Watson, a graduate of Benedict in 1999, became the head coach at his alma mater just 3 years later in 2002. That 02-03 season would be significant, as that would be the only season that Watson coached. The team has finished under 500. They were 11-14 that year. The following season, 03 and 04, earned his first of 11 20-win seasons. And so that's how you get the 400 wins, where you can have consecutive 20-win seasons. So Watson, career record right now is 400 and 172. That's a win percentage of .699. He is in his 21st season. He's earned 7 SIAC tournament championships, 5 SIAC regular season titles, and 2 SIAC West Division titles. He's a 7-time SIAC Coach of the Year. Has been named and earned 12 NCAA South Region tournament berths with 1 Sweet 16 appearance. So, and Watson has graduated 85% of the student athletes under his care. For Bryan Fulford, he too is coaching and has picked up the majority of his wins at his alma mater. He is an alumnus of West Virginia State, graduating there in 1987. Prior to returning to his alma mater as head coach, he spent 3 seasons at Marshall and 5 years at the University of Charleston as an assistant coach. During the last season at Charleston, he was named the interim coach. He's compiled a 400 and 293. That's .566 on the scale there through his 25-year career. He took over for the Jackets in 1999 and is currently the winningest coach in program history. Watson sits second. Watson sits second on the active wins list by an HBCU coach at a black college with his 400 victories. Fulford, with 389 victories at West Virginia State, is currently third on the list. Pop quiz. Don't answer this. Obviously, it's in the article, but if there's anybody who can think of who sits number one, you guys in the chat, put that in the chat. Who sits number one on the
On the
current
active
active
list.
wins list? Active wins list. Now, if you read the article, you know. But if you're on the article, okay. But just trying to see who out there knows.
Just off the dome.
Out there, just off the dome. See if anybody knows. And I'll even give a pop. I'll even narrow the search. It's at the non-division one level.
And it's in the
You
CIAA.
okay, so now you're giving even better clues. See, I wasn't even going to go that far. I was just going to say at the non-division one level. But yeah, so good write-up, Drew. Good job on that. What else is happening in the SIC, Drew? While we were talking there about, well, let's go first off. And I know the West Virginia State kind of sits over in the Mountain East. What are their standings right now, currently in the Mountain East? Do you know those? Do you know that offhand?
I believe they are sitting in first place in the Mountain East on the men's side. And spoiler alert, both their men and their women's teams will be ranked once we get to that portion of the show. But they are sitting at, I believe, 13-1 is their current record. Pulling that up right now. Yes, they are sitting at 13-1, 7-1 in the Mountain East Conference.
Okay. And for Miles right now, they're sitting at currently 7-2.
Excuse me. Check that, Brian. They are tied. They are tied for number one with West Liberty in the standings right now.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
so give again what their record, their conference, and overall record is.
They're 13-1 overall. They're 7-1 in conference. They're 6-0 at home, and they are 4-1 away from home. And taking a look at their losses, their one conference loss, ironically, was to West Liberty. So technically, they will be in second place in the conference right now. They lost on December 10th to West Liberty. They will get their chance for revenge against West Liberty on February 1st. And that will be a home game for West Virginia State.
Okay. Okay, going over into the SIC, where Miles sits tied in first place on the men's side of things with a current record of 7-2. Over in the West Division, Miles with an 11-3 overall record. Tuskegee 12-4. Kentucky State sits just a half game back with a record of 6-2, 7-3 overall. Over on the eastern side of the men's bracket, the defending conference tournament champs, Savannah State, currently sitting in first place, 6-2 in conference, 8-4 overall. Fort Valley State is one game behind them in the win and loss column, 5-3 with a 7-7 overall record. As I was kind of just bumping around looking at some scores, any significant scores or games that kind of stand out from the past week, Drew, in the SIC that you want to make mention of?
Before I get to the scores, Brian, one other thing that you failed to mention, Lemoyne Owen is tied with Miles, Tuskegee, and Kentucky State in the loss column. They just played 2 less games. So all 4 of those teams that I mentioned only have 2 losses. But Lemoyne Owen is a game behind them with only 5 wins. Something else that you notice when you go up and down the standings, everyone in the West is above 500 in the conference, except for one team, that being non-HBCU Spring Hill, and they sit at 4-5. They sit only one game under 500 in the in the SIAC. So right now, if you were looking at it, that's what you would consider the power to be in the SIAC is going to be on the west side. Looking at some of the scores, if I could get for some
Let me
reason I
add
can't
this
pull up
as
the
I go
score.
through the scores. One thing that I like, it's a healthy on Monday and Wednesday this past week. You had 12 teams playing. You had 6 games, conference games happening. A healthy schedule. Everybody practically playing. On Saturday, everybody played as you had all 14 teams playing on Saturday. Which I definitely like that. I like seeing those conference days, and I know maybe because of COVID and sicknesses and things like you had to reschedule. You'd see these off days where you had a guy or two playing, or a school or two playing on a separate day away from everybody else. I just think it increases your opportunity for exposure when you can have 6 to 7 games on any given night. Pretty fun to kind of pay attention to. So I don't know. Go ahead. Anything you wanted to add in there, Drew?
For some
And
reason, I'm not able to
if not, no
pull up.
worries.
Go ahead, because
Well,
I can't
I'll
pull up
just
the
let me just read
standings.
through. I'll just go through some of the Saturday stuff. Obviously, Tuskegee
Yeah,
had a 90-69 win on the road against Kentucky State. Central State held serve at home 72-71 against Spring Hill. Albany State went on the road at Edward Waters and won 71-55. Savannah State held serve at home 64-53. Benedict won at home 63-53. Miles, as mentioned earlier, went on the road 70-64. And then Morehouse going on the road and winning 82-56. Now, looking ahead at the schedule for tomorrow in the men, we talked about just being in the same loss column, but being a full game out in the wins. Miles is traveling to Lemoyne Owen on Monday, so that'll be an interesting contest there.
pop
In
quiz,
terms of
Brian.
any other
Who's the head coach of
pop quiz, what?
Lemoyne Owen? Who's the head coach of Lemoyne Owen?
Ooh,
You want me to give you a hint?
NBA player.
Yeah, yes.
Sure. Well, I know he's
That
an
was my
NBA
hint.
player.
Okay.
Oh, that was the NBA. Okay. I want
He
to
actually
say, but
played it.
he has
He actually
Kentucky.
played in Memphis for a minute in his
Memphis. See, I thought it
professional
was going to be
career.
Kentucky. I thought he had
Not well.
Kentucky ties. I don't know.
He played. He played for the Grizzlies at one point in time in his career.
Ooh, man, I don't know. I don't know.
Bonzi
Leave that
Wells.
out there. Don't answer. Let's see if who
Bonzi
who.
Wells. Bonzi
Oh, see,
Wells.
okay, I know Bonzi. I know the name. I thought you were gonna leave. You don't have any. Leave it out for the people, Drew. You asked me, but then you let the people try to guess. Interaction, Drew. That was part of the memo for the 2022 how to increase listener engagement.
Oh,
Let the folks in the
I need
chat
to go back and read my
try to
emails.
see if they can answer. Yeah, you got to go back and read your emails. Tuskegee against Central State. Tuskegee travels to Central State this upcoming week. Fort Valley State travels to Edward Waters. Clark travels to Allen. Morehouse travels to Benedict. That's your Monday schedule. It's a quiet week because there's no mid games conference game. So just a game on Monday and then Saturday. So only 2 games next week. And so that'll be interesting, so to speak, in terms of what everyone. This is where you get into the intricacies of the schedule makers. Now, I think we may have had that just because of that week where you had the 3 games in a week, or the potential. Normally it looks like you're going to have games on Monday and then on Saturday.
Saturday,
Uh,
Monday.
Saturday, Monday.
Yes.
Okay, let's jump over to the women's side real quick, um, and talk about what we see over on the women's side as we take a look at the standings over in the SIAC. Savannah State sits in first place over on the east side with a 6-2 record, 10-3 overall. Followed up by Clark Atlanta with a 5-2 conference record. Albany State has a 5-4 conference record. So those are your top three teams in the East. Over in the West, Tuskegee 9-1 with I would say probably a 2-game lead over Central State right now, who is 6-2. Well, Central State and Lane, who are both 6-2. Tuskegee 12-3 record overall, and just sort of taking a look at the schedule and results from last week for the women. Savannah State held on to their home winning streak, which is probably getting close to 20 something. They won 85-69 over Fort Valley State. Tuskegee went on the road to get a 58-48 victory over Kentucky State. So, oh, you know what we missed earlier in the week, Drew? Savannah State actually their home win streak came to an end. We missed that. That happened on Wednesday night. Lane College ended the streak as they got a 78-75 victory at Savannah State. So that pretty much ended Savannah State. I think they had like an 18-game home win streak that came to an end at the hands of Lane in a close ball game. And so that
And
win
watch
on
out for
Saturday
Lane.
was actually, yeah, hey, they're sitting there, right? They're sitting there.
Yeah.
Looking ahead to Monday, Savannah State home again against Albany State. Tuskegee travels to Central State. Mile travels to Lemoyne-Owen. Of course, these are all part of the men and women doubleheaders. Now, Benedict travels to Payne College. Spring Hill travels to Kentucky State. And so that's a look at the SIAC.
Hey, Brian, one thing that we
Yeah.
forgot earlier this season, and we apologize for missing that. We had a coach on the women's side hit a career milestone also. We talked about the two men's coaches who hit their milestone on Saturday, but back in December, we had a women's head coach hit victory number 600 in his career.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be Robert. That would be Robert Skinner of Albany State. He started the season with 598. He's currently at 604, but we missed that back in December when he reached that accomplishment. So congratulations to Coach Skinner also. Coach Skinner began his career at Payne College and has been at Albany State since, I believe, 1992 or somewhere along those lines. So he's got about a close to a 40-year coaching career and has 600 victories in that career. 604 to be exact.
All right. Nice. The CIAA, as I bump over to the CIAA's website, the CIAA.com, I wanted to take a look. They dropped an announcement this week with their 2023 broadcast schedule. So the CIAA announced that this year's schedule of games will be broadcast live through HBCU Go and another network. Meanwhile, the games in the CIAA men's and women's basketball tournament will take place February 21 through the 25th in Baltimore at CFG Bank Arena and will be shown on ESPN platforms for the second consecutive year. So, congratulations to them, CIAA showing not only digital but some games will be on linear streaming and broadcast. So I'm just going to leave it at that for certain purposes. I'm not going to get into too much details, but you can go get more information from the CIAA.com, the CIAA.com for more information. All right, quickly, let's kind of bounce through some of the standings just to update people on where the standings are in the men and women's division before we take a break. Let's see how quickly if I can pull it up here. If I can pull up
With
those men and women standings.
CIAA.
Yeah, if you've got them up, I'm trying to get
I
to it
don't
here
have.
on the site.
I didn't have the CIAA pulled up.
Well, I'll tell you what. Let's do this. We'll take a break, come back, and pull up the CI. I just want to briefly mention their standings before we get into talking about the SWAC schedule. So let's take a short break. Come back. You're watching the BCSN Sports Wrap with Bryan, and I'm Bryan. That's AD. We'll be back in just a moment.
Your ad could be ran here. MyJBN.com/support. MyJBN.com/support for more information.
Time to call a credit repair company to fix my credit. Hold the phone, man. You can do it yourself with Credit Versio. That's way too hard. Call the credit repair company. Most credit repair companies only work on 1 or 2 accounts at a time, making it slow and expensive. You won't figure that out for months. Ignore him. Credit Versio's brilliant software scans all 3 credit bureaus, finds the accounts that are hurting your score, and guides you through the entire process. Anyone can do it. Let's fast forward and see the results. Wow, I fixed my own credit and saved hundreds. You can do this. Visit creditversio.com.
At CDW, we get speed as the new currency of success.
Our team spends way too much time tending to outdated applications and software when they should be focused on driving application agility and innovation.
CDW Amplified Development Services modernizes software and application development to help accelerate innovation and digital transformation.
So you mean building new applications, UI, and mobile interfaces?
Well, you said you needed to innovate more quickly.
Oh, so he's a listener.
To do more at scale, trust CDW Amplified Development Services.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids' apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
Are you hungry for authentic Caribbean food like jerk chicken, oxtail, red snapper, shrimp, tofu, and rasta pasta? Well, find your way over to Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta.
Them belly full, but we hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, open daily from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. And on Friday and Saturday, we're open till 4 a.m. Come to Mango's and put some spice in your life.
Oh, we've got a good thing going.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta. For more info or directions, call 404-698-3992 or log on to mangoscaribbeanrestaurant.com. For instant coupons, text MANGOS to 313131.
Tell your mama hungry, papa hungry, brother hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, authentic Caribbean cuisines.
Open up the door, tell your mama hungry.
From novice to aficionado.
All right, welcome back to the BCSN Sports Wrap. Bryan and AD here, just continuing on through some of the basketball hoops news from the first full week of the year. We wanted to make mention a little bit of the standings of such in the SIC, CIAA, some of the NAIA conferences before we jump into before we hit into the SWAC and MEAC. I will say coming up a little bit later, we'll have our second BCSN top 5 basketball rankings. Those will be coming up here shortly. And so on men's basketball standings, as we have them in the CIAA, right now, Virginia State is sitting in first place in the Northern Division, 4-0, unbeaten, 11-4 overall record. Virginia Union is right there with Shaw at 2-2, and Virginia Union has a 12-4 record. But it's Shaw that's got the hot streak going right now. Shaw has won 4 games in a row, so kind of pay attention to State Union and Shaw here upcoming. I was going to do a little quick peek and see. A lot of these teams just finished playing this past Saturday. Shaw with a 65-63 win over Winston-Salem State. So I'm sure that had to be a big matchup there, right there in that region. Over on the southern side, it's Claflin, who, not too many people are used to seeing Claflin at the top of the CIAA standings on the Southern Division side. They have a 12-1 overall record. They're 4-1 in the conference. They've won 3 games in a row. Livingstone sits right behind them with a 2-1 conference record, 7-6 overall. They've won 3 games in a row. So Claflin just beat Bowie State 77-75 on Saturday. So that's they'll play Lincoln, PA again on the road on Monday. Light schedule for the CIAA, which their schedule is funny. Looking at their schedule, Drew, compared to what we saw in the SIC, it's a little more. How to describe it? It's a little more open. You got games happening on Monday. Not a lot of games, but just a couple of games. You got a couple games on Monday, a couple games on Tuesday, a couple games on Wednesday. Maybe So it's like 2 games, 3 games Monday, 1 on Tuesday, 2 on Wednesday.
Yeah,
and they get back
know
to the full schedule on Saturday.
Yeah, I think this is first week. So, these first couple of weeks coming out of the break, because, you had a couple of teams who were overplaying in the Virgin Islands and certain things like that. So that kind of threw some certain schedules off whack. So.
Okay. For the women's side of things, you've got a pair of teams on the North and Southern Division sitting atop the conference. On the northern side, it's Lincoln, PA, and Bowie State, who have a 4-1 conference record. Lincoln is 9-5 overall, won 4 straight games. Bowie 8-6, having won 2 games in a row. On the southern side, defending champs Fayetteville State and Winston-Salem State are both 4-1. They also have an 8-5 overall record. Interesting to see those teams. And as I just think about it here, I'm looking there. I see in third place in the Southern, I see Claflin women, 3-2, 9-4 overall. So it's like, Claflin becoming a basketball entity in the CIAA. Don't forget about us. I see you, Claflin. I see you working. Drew, go over to the Red River here, over to the NAIA side. What do we got?
And the Red River, the Red River is a blended conference which has 5 of our HBCUs along with some non-HBCUs. So the top HBCU in this conference is Xavier with a 5-2 conference record of 9-4 overall. That's good enough for third place in the Red River. They are the winners of 3 in a row. Then sitting in sixth place in the conference is Paul Quinn, who is still not eligible for postseason play in AIA. We'll probably see them in the NCCAA tournament again. That's 2 seeds, Brian, not 1. They're currently 4-4, and they are 4-4 in the conference. They are 6-4 overall. Texas College comes in with a 6-6 record, sitting directly behind Paul Quinn, 3-5 in conference. Houston Tillotson is 5-9, 3-5 over 3-5 within the conference. And bringing up the rear of the conference is Jarvis Christian, 4-8, 2-6 overall. That takes care of men in basketball. Switching over to the women, our top HBCU is Houston Tillotson in conference. They're 7-7 overall, but they're 5-3 in conference. They are sitting in fourth place. Xavier, who is a 9-4 record, they're receiving votes, but they're only 4-3 in conference, good enough for fifth place. Jarvis, 6-6, 3-5 in conference. Texas College, 5-10. 2-6 in conference, and bringing up the rear is Paul Quinn, who is 2-6, 2-6 in conference, and 2-6 overall. Switching over to the GCAC conference, Brian. GCAC still is not in full swing. They're just playing some games here and there. Just a second, for some reason it is.
Yeah, I was just looking into the GCAC, trying to figure out what was going on with with their season and schedule. So they haven't got into any conference games yet, huh?
Yeah, what GCAC is doing, they're playing pod, so a lot of their games will be done in a pod format. They'll come together 2 times throughout the year in various cities, and everybody will play each other like a 3. You'll play like 3 games for 4 days or something along those lines to alleviate some of the travel costs with the conference, because you got to think about it. You've got a school down in Texas, and they go all the way up to Nashville, Tennessee. So that's quite a bit of a distance for those schools. So beating somewhere in the middle, playing those games. But those games that are not played in that pod, they'll be responsible for playing those games and getting those games in. So for some reason, I cannot pull up the.
While you're looking for that, I want to give a shout out to Edward on the stream, who just gave us a little more background on that Savannah State loss for their women earlier in the week. Of course, remember I mentioned Savannah State had women had almost a 20-game home winning streak. He pointed out that they missed 24 free throws in that contest against Lane. They lost by 3. That's got to make you sick, Drew. As a coach, there's no worse feeling. I mean, if you just use the old, if we would have made half of the ones we missed, if you just use that theory, which is what I like to do, because I mean, when you say you missed 24 free throws, look, I'm not gonna say, well, we made all, but damn, if you'd have made half of the ones we missed because they're free, what would we look like?
Here's the better question, Brian. If you missed 24, how many did you take and make?
Yeah, that's a good question, Edward. What was the overall stat line on the free throws? Because damn, you missed 24. I mean, please tell me they weren't like, 6 of 30.
6 of 30.
That would have
been,
that would have been brutal. Yeah, that would have been real ugly.
Got the GCAC standings. Tougaloo, 12-0, 1-0 in conference. Philander Smith, 10-1, 1-0 in conference. Fisk, 2-6, 1-0 in conference. Dillard, 8-1, 0-0 in conference. Wiley, 5-6, 0-1 in conference. Russ, 4-9, 0-1 in conference. Oakwood, 2-8, 0-1 in conference. And Suno, 2-8, 0-0 in conference. And I believe there were some GCAC games that were actually played today. Have not seen the results of those games yet, Brian, but I know GCAC did kick off some games today on a Sunday. That's the men's standings. Flipping over to the women's standings, and this was coming into today. Philander Smith is your tops on the women's side, 9-2, 1-0 in conference. Russ 8-3, 1-0 in conference. Wiley 9-3, 0-1 in conference. Fitz 5-5, 0-1 in conference. Dillard 4-8. Suno 2-5 have yet to play a conference game, and Tougaloo is 1-8, 0-1 in conference. So those are your GCAC standings. And a couple other ones that I want to throw out there. You've got in the Sun Conference on the women's side, we'll say with the women for right now. Florida Memorial leading the Sun Conference at 11-5 overall, 6-1 in conference. And in the Sooner Athletic Conference on the women's side, Langston sits at 10-5, 5-4 in the conference. Quickly flipping over to the men, Brian. Conference standings, our last two major HBCUs. Langston 15-0, 9-0 in the Sooner Athletic Conference. And in the Sun Conference, Florida Memorial is 9-8, 1-6 in conference.
All right. Let's jump over to the Division I level and get into talking about the HBCU teams in the SWAC, MEAC, Colonial.
OVC.
Interesting week. OVC, sure. Interesting week here for the SWAC. Excuse me, as they took advantage almost, and I'm sorry, it was a scheduling mistake. I'm gonna just say it as clearly as, in my opinion, I think what they did on Monday, January 2nd, was a scheduling mistake. To have so many rivalry games to open the season, but it was done in a way where students aren't back. I mean, I'll go back and look at the attendance numbers of those games. Maybe it didn't matter, but I think you had more students probably coming back later in the week. That rivalry weekend should be when the students are in play. That's what'll make the rivalry week. I say that 5 times in a 30-second spot, but anyway, that's what'll make that more interesting. But anyway, it happened. But the SWAG got off 3 games. Some teams played 3, some teams played 2, with the Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday being yesterday. On the men's side, Southern University comes out with a 3-0 record, with 2 road wins in the Texas two-step, as they got a 1-point overtime victory over Texas Southern, the preseason favorite, and then a 4-point victory over Prairie View on Wednesday. Then on Saturday, they picked up an 18-point victory at home to open their home season against FAMU. Southern's currently sitting at 7-9, and a great job there by Coach Sean Woods, Indianapolis Cathedral. Shout out. Sean Woods doing a great job there at Southern University, doing the damn thing. It said, "Who's your native, Drew?" I'm sorry, I gotta do that anytime I mention Sean Woods. Shout out to my alma mater. All right, then Jackson State. How about this on the men's side? After a 1-12 non-conference schedule, they're 2-0 this week. Wins over Alcorn by 1 and Alabama State by 3. Jackson State. And Drew, I don't know if you knew this, and I was one of those people complaining about FAMU's non-conference schedule, but I understand Mo Williams and his complaining when I won't say it was complaining. I'm sorry. It was his plea. It was his plea to the alumni base to be more supportive, right? But anyway, their schedule in clear non-conference schedule consisted of road games at Michigan, Indiana, TCU, Mississippi State, Texas Tech, Alabama. They did go on the road and beat SMU by a point. That was their one win. But there was at least four to five ranked teams that they played. And guess what, Drew? There were no non-division one games. There were no quad zero opponents in their schedule. So it wasn't like, hey, let's play a feel-good game to make our team feel better. No, man. They just went out and played, got their butts handed to them. They got a win. But they came back and started the season with a 2-0 record. So shout out to Jackson State and Coach Mo Williams, man, getting it done. Even getting it done against his old former team, right?
Yes. And that goes to show you when you have talent to go out and play those games and to be able to shake it off and come into conference play and still handle your business in conference play, which we have yet to see in Tallahassee yet.
Let's not go there. Let's not mention them. Not gonna do it right now. Here's the thought though.
That's a Wednesday night
Mo
show.
Williams. That's a Wednesday night. That's a Wednesday night topic, Drew. For Jackson State, and I had the pleasure of and it's a thought that was put into my head. And we often complain. No, let me backtrack. I won't put this on all of y'all out there or you, Drew. Me. I often complain about scheduling, right? I do. I complain about it because I want to see us get wins. And I wonder if Mo Williams is the kind of guy that can go out and recruit the kind of talent and tell his talent, hey guys, come to Jackson State. Here's why. Our non-conference is like none other. You say you are a top whatever level player. Guess what? We're playing a top 20 schedule in our non-conference. We may not play at home, true, but you're going to go and play some of the best Power 5 and mid-major teams in the country here at Jackson State. And so you're going to be on TV 13 games right off the bat because all those games were on TV. So you're going to get seen. Now, the question is, are you tough enough? Do you have the skill set, ability, the comprehension, the basketball IQ to be able to match wits against these guys? Yes or no? And don't sell me and don't sell me on a maybe kind of sorta. Either you can or you can't. It's
Bryan,
and look, don't worry about the SWAT. Don't worry about the SWAT. Look, if we handle business in the non-conference, the SWAT will work itself out. Because if we mess around and win 4, maybe 5 of those non-conference games, they're gonna know who you are.
Bryan,
what do you think about that, Drew?
Anybody who plays ball at a high level thinks that they can do it. But anybody who plays ball at a high level knows they can't do it by themselves. You have to sell that to a group of guys. Now, it's a little bit easier with the AAU circuit the way it is because these guys talk to each other on the AAU circuit. You have basketball. Everybody listen to me. Basketball is the one sport that as HBCUs, we can compete with the Power Fives quicker than any of the other sports combined. Why?
Mm-hmm.
If I got 3 of y'all, I can compete. If I got 5, I'm going to win. If I got some coming off my bench, oh my God. But you could go out if you could get. I don't even need 5 stars, Brian. I need to build my team like a Butler or a Villanova or some other mid majors. Villanova would be a high major, but like a Butler or somebody like that. I need to be about 3 4s and 2 to 3 2s,
Some
and I can go out
specialty
here and
guys.
compete. Right.
Yep.
But here's the thing. I've got to do it. I've got to compete, and then I've got to start building that cycle where I start replenishing it. But
Yes.
you can't sell that speech to one person for Coor Maker. You
One
got
person.
to sell
Right.
that to a whole group of people where you get yourself a Fab Five in. Where you get yourself a UNLV group from the late 80s or something along those lines. Then maybe you can go out and do it. But the TV stuff, Brian, who cares about that? You know why? Nine times out of 10, my game's gonna be right here. So the TV don't mean what it meant back in the day because I could go to whatever app I want to go to and watch it. Long as we have live streaming at home,
Right.
as long as the opponents that you play have some type of streaming capability. Because I'm probably gonna be buried on ESPN 50 because of our schedule.
Well, no, not really. Not really, because if you're playing Michigan, that's gonna be a Big Ten. That's a Big Ten network game. Indiana, Big Ten network game. TCU, that's gonna be on
Except
ESPN Big 12. Mississippi
except
State, that's
except
a SEC network.
except when you're going up against you said Michigan, except when you've got Iowa playing Oklahoma State in a non-conference matchup. Now I get bumped into the ESPN plus 3 range.
You're not look.
I'm
I
just
get it.
throwing it
I
up.
get what you're saying. You're not the
You get what I'm
feature
saying?
game, but again, you're playing a non-conference. You're playing a non-conference
Yeah, exactly.
game. I agree with
Yeah,
everything you're
but
saying. I also
the
think
TV portion of it is not as important as it used to be. But Brian, let's be real.
okay.
It's coming down to one thing, and you said it earlier. Am I carrying a Louis or a Bowie?
Mm.
What's the back?
Yeah, that
A
yeah,
Louis
that
or a
NIL,
Lucci?
that NIL.
That's what it's gonna come down to, man. Am I carrying Louis
That
or a Lucci?
NIL money, yeah, the
Yeah.
NIL money. I also think coaching is going to show out more preparation and coaching, because what I think is going to happen now with guys like Mo Williams in this space. I think guys like Robert Jones has over at Norfolk State has a system and has built a system. Lavelle Moulton has built a system of success. Johnny Johns at Texas Southern has built a reputation and a system. Blakeney at Howard, and these are guys who come from Power Five. They know how to build a program, run a program. What it should look like, what success looks like, is hard for everybody to replicate. But if you've never seen success and you never helped build success, you can't replicate it because you don't know what it looks like. You know what I'm saying? And when you've been there and you've built it or you've been a part of building it, you know when it's not right.
Correct.
If I'm making
I've
sense.
got one other thing. I got one other thing, and this is what's gonna kill them. You can get all that stuff, and then here's the difference that the P5s and a lot of the bid majors have over our HBCUs. That's facility. I'm not talking about the gym where we play our games at. We've got some nice. I've been into some nice gyms on our HBCU campuses. You know what the problem is, Brian? It's a multi-purpose facility. You know what that means? When there's other things going on campus, basketball gets kicked out. Y'all got it for game day. No problem. We got your game schedule. Practice time, workouts, individuals. The difference between a lot of our schools and some of the mid majors and especially the high major schools, they've got basketball facilities where they have courts dedicated to basketball. They have a building dedicated to basketball for practice, for training, for weights, for everything else. Not you getting kicked out for homecoming or a convocation or some other special event on campus and having to go to the local high school to practice or having to
I
go
agree.
to the rec center or the YMCA to practice. And it's not about the practice, Brian. It's about the ability to come in. My class schedule, I have a gap on my class schedule from 9 to 11 in the morning. I could go in there, get some shots up for an hour, take me a shower, and still get to practice on time. Go into the locker room, take a quick shower, get to practice on time. A lot of our places don't allow that because our facilities are closed for workouts during certain times. Because it's
That's a
because the
good point.
same gym that we play our games in is used for PE or used for ROTC or used for aerobics or whatever. Good uses, except for the fact that you had this basketball team. They're here representing your university. They can't get in the extra
I
work if they choose. I'm
I
sorry.
would I would like to do I would like to commission a study. I'm putting this out there in the ether. I would like to commission a study of how many programs are dealing with what Drew just mentioned. Okay, we've got to figure that out because, and I'm going to flip it here because Drew, there are Power Five programs that have all the bells and whistles that you just talked about, and their teams are still sucking. They suck. There are teams out there that are bad, and they got all the bells and whistles and the facilities in the world. It ain't making a difference. So I get it is important. I do agree that it would be nice to have the training table, but it's not the. I don't know, Drew, if it is the. If I had to rank like the five things that yield success in a program, I don't know if it's number one for me. I really don't. I don't know if it's
You,
number one. It might be top three, but I don't know if it's number one. We
now I'm
we
supposed to
gotta
go
we
into
gotta break
something.
that down. We
I,
no no
I'm
no
supposed
no
to
no. Let's save it.
hold on.
Let's save it. Let's save it.
I just got to get this. I got to get this out. I got to get this out. What was my biggest frustration when I was assistant coach at Tuskegee University with basketball? Now we got on a run during my second tenure there as an assistant coach at Tuskegee, where we won 4 out of 5 conference titles. That's either regular season, tournament, or division titles. 4 out of 5 consecutive years. But you know what our most difficult challenge was, Brian? It was getting up shots during practice. You know why, Brian? We only had 2 goals. The 2 goals that we played on. We didn't even because of the design of the Chappie James Center. You didn't have the side goals where you could break off doing individuals and get up shots or get into individuals. We had to be very creative with our practices to make sure everybody got up enough shots and got enough individual skills during practice. And it took a couple of years for us to figure that out. Once we figured it out, yeah, we got on that run. The thing is, Brian, first coach I worked for didn't get that time. The second coach I worked for figured it out just in time so he could get on the run. So that's just one that's my facility issue story, deep down. So
Mm. Well, again, that's I would really love to commission that study on success factors at the Division I level. Maybe I'll have to see if I can put together a general form or something, and maybe find out from coaches, find out from our coaches that are out there, and say, what are the factors to success? Is it the budget? Is it the facilities? Is it the coaching? Is it the personnel? Just all those things. Is it the NIL that draws the recruiting, that draws the talent? Anyway, back to we were just giving praise and giving some flowers to Mo Williams, and that's how we kind of started down that path, and talking about Jackson State going 2-0 on the week. So Southern and Jackson State were the only two teams to go unbeaten during the week. I thought the other impressive start for the week was Grambling. Grambling went 2-1. Their overall record now is 9-6. They're the only SWAC men's basketball team with an over 500 record. They lost by 1 to open the season at Prairie View, 61-60. Prairie View, tough losses this week, or tough games this week. Had a 1-point win against Grambling, had a 4-point loss to Southern. I really didn't dig too deep into Prairie View's 2 or 3 games this week, but just those two off the bat.
What about Texas Southern, Brian?
I was going to get into that. Yeah, just after mentioning Grambling had won against actually Grambling beat Texas Southern by 13, and then they beat Bethune-Cookman by 6. And then probably the shocker of the week, Texas Southern going 0-3 this week. Losing 2 games at home, losing to Southern in overtime. Then they lose to Grambling by 13. Then they went on the road on Saturday and lost to UAPB by 4. So the conference favorite already starting 0-3 in conference play. And just to give you an idea on how good of a week it was for schools this past week, the highest output from any team this past week was Alcorn State. They averaged 77.5 points a game in the 2 games they played. I believe Alcorn is 1-1 right now. Southern, 75.7 points a game in the 3 games that they played. Defensively, Jackson State, this might be part of the reason why Jackson State is 2-0 this past week, allowing 62 points a game, which also is tied with Prairie View, who also just allowed 62 points a game. Prairie View did that over the course of 3 games. So I think Prairie View is 2-1, if I'm not mistaken. I know there's a few teams that are 2-1 in the conference standings. Let's go over to the women's side in the SWAC, and I think it starts, of course, with the Queens, the defending champs. Jackson State going 2-0 this week.
That would be 41 in a row.
Their conference winning streak against SWAC opponents.
41 in a row.
They beat. Yeah, I don't know. I saw. So my mic. Okay, so is it 41? Because I saw something that said, and this was tweeted out by the 1400 Club. It said their 36th game in a row versus SWAC opponents.
Add in the tournaments.
So you think that's just regular season? 36 would be regular season.
That would be 30. That would be, yes, that would be correct. They won their final 13 in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
They won 18 in 2022. So that would bring us up to 31. Did you have 30? You won 2 this year, so that would be 33. And then you've got this 39. I lost 2 games in there somewhere. They went 21-0. Then they went 16-1. So they won 15 in a row that year. And then they won 2, and then the 6 tournament games.
So if it's overall, you say it's 41.
Yes.
It's got to be more than 41, Drew,
40, wait,
because
40
36. It's got to be
it's
42
20,
then.
it's 21, 16,
We
21 and
got
16,
Jackson State.
42.
We got Jackson State
42.
people in
It's
there.
42.
You Jackson
It's
State people.
42.
You tell us, is it 46? Is it 32 or 36 or 42? Anyway,
It's
I'm just
42 when
going
you
off
add in the
regular
tournament.
season. All right, so including the tournament, it's 42. Regular season is 36. Have not lost in the regular season. Have not lost to a SWAC opponent since January 4th, 2021. That's officially 2 years now. 90-48 against Alabama State. Drew, Alabama State, remember, they were the team to last beat them on January 4th, 2021. Some of the girls, some of the ladies who were
They're still
on
there.
that winning are still there.
And Alabama
90 to
State is good.
48. Yeah, well, Jackson State 90-48, and that's after you lose Amisha and what's the little Deja Rogan. You lose them, and then I don't think Alabama State ever got beat 90-48 in those previous meetings. So I know it's early, but that's a kick to the teeth if you're beating somebody 90-48 early in the season. But it's early, so anything's possible. How about Alabama A&M? Speaking of another Alabama school, they went 3-0 this past week, and they have won now 4 straight games and 5 of the last 6. Now this is after starting 0-7 to begin the year. And of course, they're doing this without Dariana Lewis, who decided to use her last year of eligibility, and she went off. I forgot where she went, Miami University, somewhere like that. She went I think she went to a Division I school. Not Division I, but a Power 5 school. And so here's Alabama A&M already off to a 3-0 start. So that'll be interesting to see what happens with them. Bethune-Cookman off to a 2-0 start after opening the year like 1-9. They whooped Florida A&M on the road by 35. Then they beat Grambling by 17. Pay attention to the Wildcats. Pay attention to the Wildcats. Jackson State and Bethune have the highest offensive output as a team, right about 74.5 and 74 points a game. They also have the stingiest defenses, averaging 48 and 48.5. And they've got to make mention of this young lady, Drew, Micah Gray of Texas Southern, a 5'8" freshman from OKC, Oklahoma City. She's averaging 28.7 a game in 3 SWAC games. That's after a 41-point performance against UAPB on Saturday, where she was 7 of 13 from the 3-point field, Drew. 7 of 13. 41 comes on the heels of dropping 30 on Grambling on Wednesday. Sadly, Texas Southern is 0-14, Drew. So wasted scoring performances right now by
like the Jordan and the Jordanettes right now.
Yeah, man. I tell you what. Yeah, it is something like that, right? The MEAC. Anything else you want to add in there from the SWAC, men or women, Drew?
Maybe she's scoring like that because they are 0-14, and that's a best chance to score is if she fired that thing up.
Somebody. Yeah, need some help from somebody. I need some offense from somebody. The MEAC opened their conference schedule this past Saturday. Morgan State opened the conference season with a 78-73 overtime win against North Carolina Central. Both teams are 7-8 overall. Coppin State with an 85-73 win over South Carolina State to open the season. Norfolk State also at home with a 57-46 win over Maryland Eastern Shore. Norfolk State is 11-5 overall. And how about Howard? Howard University, 84-64 over Dell State. So all four home teams got a win in the MEAC for the men. Over on the women's side, Drew, you want to go through and let them know what the women's standings are, or the
Next
women
time you do that,
results are?
Brian, next time you do that, you better cue me up and let me know that I'm
I'm
ready,
sorry.
ready to get some score.
I'm sorry.
Uh,
I mean, I got it up. I thought you were following along. I got it.
no, I still was on the SWAC's page.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Here I got the MEAC women here. No worries. One of the schools, I guess South Carolina State's dealing with some COVID related issues, so that is still happening around the world and in
I guess
places in America.
it's still real.
It's still happening, but so that caused the game against Coppin State to be postponed. They were South Carolina State. Right now the women are 1-14 overall. They were scheduled to travel to Coppin State. That game got suspended. But again, 3 home games, so it was a doubleheader home sweep, Drew. As the other 3 games, you had Morgan State women with an 81-72 win over North Carolina Central. Norfolk State's women, who are 13-3 overall, with a 43-34 victory over Maryland Eastern Shore. And then Howard's women with a 51-49 win over Delaware State. And so that is your roundup. One other note we got to mention, Drew, can't forget about North Carolina A&T. I don't want anybody thinking that just because they're not in one of the main 2 HBCU conferences that we forget about them. But the Aggie North Carolina A&T women are 4-0 and tied in first place right now in the Colonial, especially after going on the road and getting a win against Hofstra today, Sunday. I think there were 6 games played today by the women. All of and the home teams went 5-1. The one road win was by the Aggies, who have had a pretty good week. They sit tied with Drexel University. Drexel is 4-0 in conference. The Aggies are 4-0 in conference with a 10-5 record. Guess who's sitting in second, or I guess third place in the conference women's standing? That'd be Hampton Lady Pirates. Although, I mean, there's a host of teams at 2-1. Hampton's 2-1, 5-8 overall. So, congrats to those 2 schools finding success. A little bit tougher go for the men, Drew, as the North Carolina A&T men are just 1-3 right now in conference play, 6-11 overall. Hampton men winless at 0-4 right now at the bottom of the division, 3-13 overall.
Looking at Tennessee State, Brian.
Mm-hmm.
Over in the OVC, starting off on the men's side, Tennessee State went 1-1 this week, losing to Southern Illinois Edwardsville 72-81. That game was on ESPN I believe, or ESPN News. It was on ESPN News. I'm looking at it now. And they defeated Lindenwood 60-57. Lindenwood just now moving up to the Division 1 level, former Division 2 opponent. That brings the Tigers to 10-7. They are 2-2 in the conference. Switching over to the women's side, women sitting at 6-9. They are 1-3 in the conference. The results for the week: lost to Southern Illinois 69-76 and defeated Lindenwood 79-74 on yesterday. Both teams' next game will be Thursday at Tennessee Martin. That game will be available on ESPN Plus, and that's a home game for the Tigers.
All right. One of the side issues, and I want to bring this up, Drew, because I saw. I actually we had somebody mention it here in our chats, but I also saw it come up in just the Saturday, Twitter scroll on my timeline. Um, Complaints, people complaining about streaming and the setup of streaming for basketball. And I think it's, it never ends, does it? And I don't know if it's Jeremiah. I don't know if it's Jeremiah Clark who, in the chat room, had brought this up. Uh, and so here's what. Okay, man. The hard part is, Drew, is when you're in this, it's hard to help people understand. Uh, and I don't even know if it's about understanding. It's just I'm with y'all. Put it like this: I don't understand it either. It would seem. See, I think what people want is people want the SWAC, and they want the SWAC to be more involved in distributing or be more involved in the placement of games. I mean, that would seem to make
Define
sense,
placement.
right?
Define placement.
Okay. Placement would mean I have a website. Okay. I have a website, I have a web page on my website. And on my web page, I maybe have a portal that would send or alert people or let people know where they can watch games, maybe even have a featured game of the day. I do know the SWAC does list, whether a game is going to be on video. They list whether a game is going to be on audio. Okay, that is listed. If you go and look at the schedule, on the schedule, all those links are there. If they're not, I think they are. They're there, and you can go and look and see what the schedule is for all of the games that are being played. So if it's not the conference, it's not the conferences, guys. It's the schools. It's the schools. Every school is not operating with the same. I'm trying to be kind because it's
Good
2023.
intentions. With the same good
I
intentions.
think no, because that would imply that they have bad
Priorities.
intentions.
Same priorities.
There you go. Priorities. There you go. There you go. All the schools don't have the same priorities. Some schools are more concerned about what's within their 30-minute radius.
They're concerned about butts in the seat. Just say it, Brian. They want rather see butts in the seat than eyes on the tube.
I said 30-minute radius, didn't I? I said 30-minute
But you
radius.
sugarcoated it. You sugarcoated it.
But they are more concerned with that than necessarily drawing a larger audience or a larger fan base. Don't ask me why. Don't. I don't know why. Time, resources, mental and physical availability.
Brian, I'm gonna break it down for you.
Well, hold on. Let me before you break it down. Let me finish because
let you get it out.
I'm gonna get it out. Let me get it all out my system. I think every school, and I've said this before, I don't know why every school does not have a dedicated play-by-play person to broadcast every home and away game, I don't know why every game is not broadcast on things that are free within your own entity. You have, I mean, it all seems weird, but you have outlets. You have YouTube, you have Facebook. You can stream to YouTube and Facebook at the same time. You have a
You have
web
campus
page.
radio. You have campus
You have
radio.
campus radio. You have you have an athletic web page. You know, you have all kinds of means to publicize your stream. You know, and again, I'm just talking about, you know, letting people know about your program, advertising your program. The one thing that I love is that, you know, if I wanted to go listen to an Alcorn State basketball game, and when they traveled to Minnesota, up in Minneapolis, Minnesota, I know Charles Edmonds was there to broadcast it. Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State Radio Network. Okay. And I know, I mean, I can find it. I know where to find it now. Maybe I have to pay for it to listen to it. Maybe I don't. Okay. That's another thing, you know. But I do think, for example, FAMU played Southern. It was part of the Jaguar Sports Network. Now, I wasn't able to watch it because I was elsewhere, committed to other things. But if I wanted to watch the game, it probably wasn't more than, say, I don't know what the cost, maybe $14, maybe $10, $11, right? That's cheaper than a ticket at a home game. It cost me $20 to go to a home game. I should want to pay to watch a game if I really am wanting to watch FAMU basketball. I should have gone ahead. I should go ahead and pay it. You know what I'm saying? So there are schools that are doing it. Everybody's not on the same page though. And that's why you have entities like us. You have entities like HBCU Go. You have other entities that are trying to bring basketball games to the public. But at the end of the day, every school has to be of that mindset. So if it bothers you, I really would encourage. I'm gonna tell you to stop talking and worrying about what the SWAC is not doing, and go individually, school by school. Call out the schools. Let the AD know. Send them a tweet. Send them an email. Tell the alumni association, hey, why isn't your alumni association broadcasting games? Do y'all care? That's maybe what the first question you should ask. I mean, because it's not the conference. It's not the conference. It would make sure. I know you want it to make sense for the conference, but it's not the conference. It's the schools.
Not their responsibility.
Right. That's not what the conference. Now, yes, could they make money off of it? Sure. Yes, they could. But again, at the end of the day, why aren't you asking the schools? The same way that when issues come up in the NCAA, people go to the NCAA. Well, the NCAA is made up of presidents. Go ask the university presidents to change what they're doing and how they do it. All right, Drew. Now, what did you want to add to this little discussion that came up?
Here's the fundamental problem, Brian. The people at the universities don't understand. They are still doing things with the typewriter while everybody else is using a computer. They are so old school. A lot of these decision makers are old school. All they know is butts in the seat, crowd, blah, 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 blah. Those type of things. Here's the thing. Majority of your fans are not local. There needs to be two separate marketing plans. Yes, it is important that you market your product to your local people. But first of all, before you even reach out into the community, you gotta do one basic thing, Brian. You gotta get the doggone students whose student activity fees allow them to get in for free to actually come to the game. If you can't get the students to come to the game, how you gonna get Johnny who run the barbershop to come down and watch the game? Who gonna tell Johnny at the barbershop to come watch the game? Or at the beauty shop or whatever. Because everybody don't get their hair done and don't get their hair cut in the dorm room. There's actually people who still go to the barbershop, they gotta go to the grocery stores, etc., etc. Then you have to reach out to these businesses. Not only do you have to reach out to your McDonald's, your Wendy's, your Walmarts and Academy Sports and your major stuff like that, but you need to reach out to the barber and beauty supply place. You need to reach out to the corner store. You need to reach out to the car wash and all the other small businesses also. Get those people interested in buying season tickets. Last thing on a local level. I don't know any of our schools, Brian, that doesn't have an elementary, middle, and high school. At least one within the vicinity. Depending on where you are, some of them have multiples in the school district, some of them just have the one. But whatever. Why don't we reach out to those kids? Those kids who come in there today.
It's work.
Maybe your scholars of tomorrow. They get ingrained on campus. So somebody's got to do some local marketing. Now, on the flip side, you want your alumni to donate more, to support more? They need to see more of your product. This is not football where it's a once a week, you can plan a weekend around this event. This is basketball. This is baseball. These are things that happen multiple times a week. Brian, I live 2 hours from Tallahassee, Florida, where our alma mater FAMU is. You know what that means that I live 2 hours from Tallahassee? I can't go to a game on a Monday night. I can't go to a game on a Thursday night if I choose to go. I can only go to a game on Saturday. So if I'm going to watch the Rattlers play on Monday night, guess what I'm going to watch it on? Right here on this iPad. Right here on this iPad. So you need to be able to market to me to get me to do that. Now, when I see those different advertisers, especially the local advertisers, but when I come to town, I may go to Guthrie's or somewhere else along the line to buy me some food because they advertise with FAMU. But whatever the case is, it's all about marketing. You have to market this. You try to use the football model for basketball and all the other sports. It doesn't work. When I'm not going down there on a baseball season, I dang sure ain't going up there on a Tuesday afternoon at 12 o'clock to watch the Rattlers play. But I'll flip it on in my office and watch them play. So, the people who are these decision makers don't understand the different marketing. And each sport is marketed a little bit different. You cannot have a blanket marketing policy. Football is marketed different than basketball, which is marketed different than baseball, which is marketed different than softball, etc., etc. The people that they don't know or have been unwilling to learn what the trends are and where to push this stuff. That's the problem, Brian, at the university level. I'm off my soapbox, man.
No, that's good points. I like how you brought home the fact that there's a synergy. See, there's a synergy there between marketing to your community and your all of your different stakeholders. I mean, and that's a challenge for any I mean, that's one of those things they teach you in marketing 101 is identifying the needs of your stakeholders, because you have different stakeholders. The stakeholders of your students. I mean, think about students, teachers, and staff, right? That's two different stakeholders. But how many teachers and professors at your university are season ticket holders? They have families. How many of them come to the games with their families? Then you have
Brian,
students, right?
how many of our professors did we actually see at a basketball game or a football game? I saw more at a
That's my
football game
point.
than I saw at a basketball game. I
That's my
never
point.
saw anybody who was my
That's my
professor
point.
at a
That's
basketball
my
game.
point. That's what I'm talking about connecting with your stakeholders. So you got your on campus stakeholders, right? And then you've got your off campus stakeholders, and how you reach and target your on campus stakeholders is definitely going to be a little bit different than your off campus, because even though they may see similar things, but advertising your programs. Like, I asked somebody in Tallahassee, I said, how many times have you seen our coaches on the local TV? On the local TV shows, the morning shows, the midday shows, all that stuff, to just pop in when look, TV shows are trying to fill content. They need content. You have all these programs. You have inventory for days. You talked about games. You've got at least 9 to 10 home basketball games. That's already twice as many as your football inventory. You combine basketball and baseball, now you've got 4 times as many as your football inventory, right? So that inventory has to be exploited a certain way. You have to get out your coaches and organize time and say, hey, I got 3 news networks in my area. I got to send my coach to go be on the morning show with Becky and John at 10 a.m. Then they got to go be with Sue and Dixie at noon for the noon show, and then on another network with the afternoon zoo. Guess what? Damn it, you're gonna go be on their show too, because I got to
Don't
tell
forget the
people.
radio shows, Brian.
Oh, thank you. I mean, look, Drew, if you want to be, it ain't hard. And so here's where I say, like people who want. Here's where the conferences can help schools. The conferences can help schools by showing them the various marketing strategies, ways, bring all your schools together, show them how they can grow. Because yes, it's in the best interest for the SWAC, but at the end of the day, the SWAC works on the behest of the schools. They need to help show the schools, maybe they do this already, but if they can bring the schools in, help the schools and say, hey guys, this is how you can do X, Y, and Z. Then maybe guess what? Each school, you might even create some. Grambling may say, hey man, we do this. I know the guys at Grambling. They may say, hey, we do this is successful. Then somebody over at Alabama A&M says, well, we've had success doing this. Here's Florida A&M or Bethune say, you know what, that's a great idea. We haven't tried doing that. That's how you share the strategies. And then you get back to your own departments, and with your athletic directors and your staff, you try to start figuring out how we can expand our reach within our own communities.
Hey Brian, how many basketball coaches have a show? We know football coaches have a coaches show. How many basketball coaches have a coaches show?
I don't know. It's not hard to do. It's not hard to do.
And
not
you
hard
talked
to do.
about
How many of you guys? Hey, hold on. Ask the question in the chat room. You guys, I know we got some Jackson State people, some A&T people in here. How many
Jackson
of you guys
State
have
don't count.
seen? But I'm just saying, how many of you have seen a coaches show with your coaches? We outside of football now. Don't tell me about football, but even I know FAMU recently has been doing a weekly show with the basketball coaches and stuff. But even your other shows, your other sports, is that happening? Is it not happening? If it's not happening, it should be.
I got another one, Brian. You talk about the local TV stations or the TV stations because some of our schools are in rural communities, and the TV stations are not going to be able to come down there and shoot and get back and have the film edited for the 10 o'clock news.
Right.
What's wrong with us sending the highlight package to the TV station?
Man, stop, Drew. Wait a minute.
Let's
Are you talking about
work.
actually taking broadcast journalism communication major students, asking them to record and then put a 1 to 2 minute package that they can send to the news chat? Are you talking about real world experiences that would help them later on? Is that what you're just talking? Is that what you just said? Is that what you just did?
Did I?
Drew, stop it. That's all part of, see, common sense ain't common. My mama always said this. My mama said common sense is not
We
common.
we are at a college or a university that should be preparing our students to go into the real world. How about getting some real world experience on that campus? Let's get into these doggone polls, man, because we've been on this podcast for too long. We need to be ready to pick up the show and get up out of here.
Well said, well said. But I appreciate you guys for bringing that out to the forefront. Maybe we can continue the discussion on, and let's see. Every day we have an opportunity to get better. Maybe it'll get better soon. Are we starting with the women or the men? This is the new top 5 BCSN top 5 basketball rankings for the week
We are
of
starting. We are doing
January
the women.
8th.
We are doing the
Let's
women
start
first.
with the women. Top 5 women. Here we go. No great fancy theme music, but we just get me going. All right, here we go. For the women, our number 1 team. Now, do you have last week? So, I mean, are you able to tell me who moved up and down? Are you able to do all that?
Actually, I do have last week's.
Okay, so you can tell
I'm
me
looking
after
at
I
it.
read the top 5 who went up and down. All right, so 1 to 5, Norfolk State comes in number 1. I mentioned their record earlier, 13-3, 1-0 in conference, well ahead of North Carolina A&T, who is now 10-5, 4-0 in conference. This was put together this morning,
Before they
so this was
played it
before their
today.
game. Yeah, before
Yes.
they played. So well within their number 2 spot. Number 3 is Alabama A&M. Mentioned them earlier. 3-0 in conference play. Great week for the Lady Bulldogs. Number 4, Morgan State. The Bears get their first win to open the MEAC play. They're 1-0 in conference play, 8-6 overall. Jackson State picks up 2 wins this week, continues their dominance in the SWAC at 42 overall and 36 in regular season games. Jackson State comes in at number 5. Right there in the hunt, you've got Hampton, Southern, Alabama State, and Prairie View, all close to Jackson State, but not quite there. So who moved up and who moved down, or who moved in from the previous week, Drew?
Looking at this, last week you had Jackson State was 5. Hampton dropped out to the in the hunt category. First of all, we have an in the hunt category this week. As you see, those teams are on Jackson State's coattails, those 4 teams that are listed right there. But Hampton dropped out of the rankings, replaced by Alabama A&M, who came in at number 3. And Morgan State jumped into the rankings. No, check that. Morgan State dropped from 2 to 4. A&T went from 3 to 2. And, of course, Norfolk State remained at number 1.
All right, second consecutive week that the mighty Spartans, the Lady Spartans, have been number 1 on our poll. All right, let's look at the Division II rankings, our top 5 in the Division II, starting with the number 1 team. That would be the Tuskegee Lady Golden Tigers, 12-3 overall, 9-1. Savannah State, I would imagine, dropped to number 2 after losing their game on Wednesday. 10-3 overall, 6-2 in conference play. Just slightly behind them, West Virginia State. We mentioned Coach Poor getting win number 400. They are 11-2, and you mentioned, Drew, that they were tied for first or sitting in first place in the Mountain East at 6-2.
Tied for first.
Tied for first in the Mountain East. Shout out
Yes.
to West Virginia State. Lane College, after the big win on the road at
No,
Savannah
check
State.
that. Check that, Brian. That's the men who were tied for first. The women are sitting in second.
Okay. All right. I thought you. Okay. Good deal. All right. Lane. So sorry about that for building up the hype and then getting my hype getting stepped on. Lane comes in at number 4 after the win against Savannah State. I believe they jumped into the top 5 for the first time. 6-2 in conference, 10-3 overall. Winston-Salem State comes in at number 5 at 8-5, 4-1. Just sitting outside by a smidge. You can see in terms of points, Lincoln, PA, just outside of the top 5, followed by Fayetteville State, Bowie State, Miles, and Claflin. So, be interesting to see how those. Was I correct in the shakeup there from the previous week's rankings, Drew?
No, you were incorrect.
Okay, break it down. Who
Okay.
moved up, down, and out? In.
All right. Dropping out of the top 5 was Miles. Miles lost 2 games on the week. They are now sitting at 8-4, 5-1 in conference play. Moving up, despite the loss, was Savannah State to the number 2 spot because our previous number 2, Fayetteville State, dropped completely out of the polls this week.
Okay.
The other 4, they were replaced by West Virginia State, who moved in at number 3. Yes, and
West Virginia State moved in.
And Winston-Salem was in for the first time. So you had Miles and Fayetteville State moving out, West Virginia State, and Winston-Salem State moving in.
So Lane was already in there from the previous week, huh?
Same spot, sitting at number 4.
Same spot. Okay, and Savannah State was in the same spot, huh?
No, Savannah State was 3. They moved up 1 spot.
Even with the loss. So okay, Tuskegee
Even with the loss.
stays. So Tuskegee stays number 1 for the second consecutive week. All right. Well, interesting.
Yeah.
I have to do my research. I promise to do better with my research next week.
Savannah State, Lane, Savannah State, Lane, Fayetteville State, and Miles all lost on the week, which allowed West Virginia State and Winston-Salem to move in. But Savannah State and Lane still had enough points built up where they did not drop out. Matter of fact, Savannah State was still better than the rest.
All right, let's move to the NAIA. In the NAIA division, now let's kind of. Are you looking at last week's as well?
Yes, I'm looking at last week's.
Okay, so number 1 is Florida Memorial, 11-5, 6-1. Where was Florida Memorial a week ago?
3.
Okay, I did not think they were number 1 a week ago. If I'm not mistaken, I think it was Philander Smith who was number 1 a week ago, correct?
Right, and Philander Smith had no activity last week, so that's what allowed Florida Memorial to jump them. Same thing with Wiley. Same thing with Wiley, who did not play last week. Wiley was number 2 last week. They did not play, so Florida Memorial jumped both of those due to inactivity.
Gotta hate the old inactivity in a week. Russ College comes in at number 4, 8-3. Langston, 10-5. I believe both of those schools were 4-5 last week in the hunt.
That would be correct.
Xavier Stillman are in the hunt, just outside of the top 5. So that's our top 5 on the NAIA women. Let's jump over to the men. Let's take a look at the top 5 in the men. The men's division. This is week number 2. And just like their women's basketball program, it's the men of Norfolk State, the mighty Spartan. So you mean to tell me that the number one basketball program in black college sports is the Norfolk State Spartans, the men and women? Go ahead. Behold the green and gold. They are number one in the men's with 11-5 record overall, 1-0. Southern, of course, as mentioned, had a great week. Where was Southern last week, Drew, after being going 3-0 this week?
Southern was not on the board last week. The 3-0 conference mark is what helped them out in their ranking.
Indeed, yes, it did. Number 3, Grambling State, as mentioned, the only SWAC
Previous number
school with
one.
over 500. Right, previous number one. One loss during the course of the week. I wonder, had they maintained and won all 3 games, would they still be number one? That'd be interesting to see how
It
that
would have been close.
would have been close. North Carolina Central, who lost on Saturday, comes in at number 4. Where were they a week ago?
They were number 3.
Okay, so they dropped 1 spot. And then Tennessee State, 10-7 overall, 2-2 in the OVC. I don't think Tennessee State was in the top 5 last week, were they?
Yeah. You would be incorrect. They were sitting at number 4 last week, so they dropped 1 spot. And our 2 teams that are in the hunt are exactly the same 2 teams that were in the hunt last week.
All right, good deal. Good deal. All right, let's go over to the Division II side of things. And you kind of teased this a little bit earlier. West Virginia State sits at number 1, 13-1 record, 7-1. That's the team that's tied for first in the Mountain East. Virginia State and the CIAA comes in at number 2, 11-4, 4-0 in conference play. Claflin, 12-1 record, 4-1 in conference play. Claflin becoming a basketball power, shall we say? Maybe. Tuskegee University, 12-4, comes in at number 4. Miles is 11-3, coming in at number 5. In the hunt, Lemoyne Owen, led by former Portland Trailblazer and Memphis Grizzly, Bonzi Wells, Kentucky State, and Savannah State. Who moved in, up, out, and so on and so forth in Division II level, Drew?
West Virginia State and Virginia State flip-flop spots from last week there, Brian. And number 3, 4, and 5 were in the hunt teams last week. So they took care of business and were able to land in our top 5, replacing Kentucky State, Lemoyne Owen, and Virginia Union, who were in the top 5 last week.
All right. So this past week, did the Savannah State? How many games did Savannah State play this past week? Wins and losses.
They are currently 8-4. If you give me a second, I can pull up their schedule.
I'm just kind of reading a couple comments there in the chats. I guess Miles recently lose to Savannah State?
Not on the men's side, no.
Okay.
That was about 2 weeks ago when Miles lost to Savannah State. That was pre-Christmas.
Gotcha.
When Savannah State beat Miles. Give me a second, Brian. You said Savannah State.
Yeah, Savannah State. Edward says Savannah State went 3-0 this past week, and they're in the hunt.
So did Miles.
And so did Miles.
So did Miles. This week, let's see. Savannah State defeated Lemoyne Owen 65-62, defeated Lang 65-55, and defeated Fort Valley 64-53. Since we're going to do that comparison to Miles, flipping over to Miles. Miles defeated Albany State 62-59, defeated Fort Valley State 55-50, and defeated Lane 70-64. And of course, we stated earlier that was Coach Watson's 400th career victory.
Okay. All right. Well, hey,
And the
look,
other
sometimes
team,
the
wait,
computers.
one other one, the other team that jumped in, one other team that jumped in, Tuskegee defeated Allen 81-52, defeated Benedict 73-69, and defeated Kentucky State 90-69. So they did a double 69 this week, Brian.
Hey, look, Edward, I'll tell you, sometimes what I've learned about the computer rankings, the computer does not always care about had at least from 2 weeks ago. It only is concerned with the now, but it aggregates out though. It kind of averages itself out. So look, it's
Over the
week
season.
2. Yeah, it's week 2. We got about 10 more weeks to go. So don't fret. We'll see what happens here. We didn't
You
do
on the
NAIA
board.
yet.
Yeah,
Yeah,
one
you're on
last
the
one.
board. You're on the board. Yeah,
Yeah,
one last one. The
Claflin,
NAIA. We got to get the
Claflin
NAIAs.
picked up 2 victories this week. They defeated Virginia Union 63-58. Remember, Virginia Union was ranked last week, and they defeated Bowie State 77-75.
Gotcha.
All right, so moving
Okay.
on to NAIA.
NAIA top 5, and there we go. Our guy, Coach Wright, doing the damn thing. Langston 15-0. Shout out to Coach Wright, man. Just getting it done wherever he goes. My man just wins. I got to give Coach Wright a call. I love his spirit and energy. I just need to, I need to. I got to give. That's on my to-do list. I don't know if Coach is watching the show, but Coach, if you're watching the show, a call is coming. I got to call and see what's going on. What's right. And I have a report back, Drew. Maybe we'll have Coach on the show next week just to kind of get an update, right?
Yeah.
Tougaloo comes in at number 2, 12-0. Man, good ball club there, and they always have good squads. Philander Smith 10-1, 1-0. Good to see Dillard back in the hunt. Dillard had a couple of down years in men's basketball, so good to see them at 8-2, and then Xavier trying to find their way back in the hunt. We know about Xavier. We know they got a good program. Coach Williams over there doing the thing. 9-7, 5-3 in conference play. Stillman College right there in the hunt. I mean, similar record as Xavier. I don't know. I don't know the difference between one versus the other. Might be strength of schedule. Drew. I mean, you tell me what did the numbers say? Who moved up? Who moved down? Who moved in? Who moved out?
I'm gonna sum this up. Xavier and Stillman flip spots.
Oh, okay.
See, else is in the same exact spot. After
but the point differential though, who did Xavier and Stillman play this past week? Because and did somebody win or lose?
Stillman actually on this one wound up with 4 games that were added in. They went 1-3. That was Stillman's problem. They lost to Ave Maria 78-59. They lost to St. Thomas 79-75. This was pre-holiday, pre-New Year's. And then after New Year's, they lost to Mobile 70-64 and defeated Mid Georgia 67-59. So Stillman on this cutoff went 1-3. Henceforth, the reason for the switch there. And Xavier defeated LSU Alexandria 77-62, defeated Texas College 65-57, and defeated Jarvis 72-61. So you got a 3-0 Xavier and a 1-3 Stillman for the week. That henceforth the reason for the swap.
All right. Okay. Let's close it up, Drew. Any final thoughts? Anything you want to let people know before we get out of here?
Yeah, Brian. Just want to say a word out. On Monday night, the day after we got off the air, actually was not watching the football game when the alert came through on my phone that the game had been suspended and then ultimately canceled. So obviously, I had to flip on ESPN to see what was going on, and just thinking about Damar Hamlin and what happened to him. And for this monologue, Brian, I'm not going to get into any of the on field stuff that happened. It was a tragic, unfortunate freak accident that happened. Thank God this young man looks like he's on the road to recovery. But what I am going to talk about is the media coverage and the tremendous job that the people in media did in piecing this story together in real time, Brian. I was flipping from ESPN. This was this took over CNN, MSNBC, and all the traditional media outlets. So just flipping back and forth between this, it was even on Fox News. I even flipped over to Fox News to see if they would cover it. I was just flipping through the channels. And the media coverage for this event, I want to give kudos to those people who were there in real time. There in Cincinnati, did a tremendous job giving people as much information as they could, as they do. And you get in a tough spot as you want information, people want information, but you don't want to pry because the priority is dealing with this young man and his life. Shout out to Scott Van Pelt and Ryan Clark for the coverage that they did on ESPN, because there is no script for something like this, Brian. It brings up a point in time when I was in my radio career as a radio DJ. Imagine this is pre-sports, Brian. I was just doing a hip hop music show, and it was I believe it was a Friday night, but it was a night during the week in which I was on the air. And once again, this was the infancy of cell phones, but I don't even think you didn't have really real news on your cell phone then. But I guess I get a call in a radio station from one of my frequent listeners, and he's like, "Have you heard about? Do you have any update on Governor Carnahan?" I'm like, "Huh? What?" You got to remember pre-internet, pre all that stuff, so you don't get the alerts like you do now. And I'm like, "No, fill me in on what happened." They said Governor Carnahan's plane went down, and but he may have been killed in the plane crash. Mind you, I'm doing a hip hop show. This is upbeat. This is right.
Right.
So now I've got to go. I go and thank you for the tip. I got to go cue up music and go all this stuff because now I have to go from the studio to the newsroom, which was in a separate portion of the radio station, and try to figure this out because although I am a hip hop DJ, I'm still have to be a professional. So I have to go. First of all, I have to find out is this a hoax and everything. So I start checking the wire. That's when you check the wire, Brian. You remember that from back in the day when you went through through your stuff with journalism and everything. So I have to check the wire, do all this. I get the printout from I forgot the name of the machine. I start getting the printout, start getting a couple of different stories from the Associated Press and everything else. And now, okay, this is real. And I've got to figure out, Brian, how to announce this on a hip hop radio show, on a hip hop and rap show, because it was that newsworthy. And there is no script for that. So got through it, got it done, tone, toned down the rest of the music for the day. It went from from rap to more mellow R&B as I got updates, because at that point in time it wasn't confirmed that he was dead. It was just speculated that he was dead. By the time I got off the air, it was official that he had passed on, and there were other people who were on the plane. Long story short, there is no script for when you get put into that position when you sit here behind a microphone. All you can do is hope that the words come out your mouth the right way, you don't flub it up, and you don't offend anybody by reporting it. So shout out to all those people in the media who covered that story in real time.
Well said. Well said. I'll conclude by just again celebrating the Celebration Bowl and all of you who attended, all of you who watched, and just everybody with the Celebration Bowl. I believe one of the followers that I follow, Penalty Talk, put a list together, and I think Celebration Bowl was like number
Number
12,
11. Number 11.
49,000 people. Number 11.
11
Okay.
yeah.
Now that 11 or 12, and I'm sure after
Yeah.
the national championship game, it'll be number 12. So number 12 among 40 some odd bowls, including the national championship game, is where the Celebration Bowl landed. The MEAC champion versus the SWAC champion, the celebration of HBCU football at its best. Juxtapose that, the FCS national championship game was played today in Texas, Frisco, Texas, to a crowd of 18,942. For whatever reason, they chose to play it on Sunday, this Sunday, which makes sense because it's the Sunday before the national championship of the FBS level tomorrow. So I get why they played it. They couldn't have foreseen that the NFL scheduling was going to bleed right into the
They should have been
FCS
on
schedule.
Friday night.
So
They should have played it Friday night. I'm sorry.
probably, maybe even Saturday night. But anyway, you're right. You're right. 18,942. They probably should have played it Saturday night, to be honest. But that was the attendance. And so, again, when we have those, I just want everyone to save the numbers, right? Remember the attendance numbers, 30,000 more people attending the Celebration Bowl. Probably, I'd be interested to see the TV numbers, whether they are comparable or less. Probably Drew says down, so he's saying less, probably less by Drew's estimation. We'll see if he's right or not. So just sort of remember all of that when we get into August and somebody comes along and tries to stir up the gumbo and the salad and just try to get us talking and debating about playoffs versus the Celebration Bowl. Just whoever it is, even if it's one of us, because look, it's hard sometimes trying to find content. Sometimes we just talk about whatever we feel like talking about. Okay, so it might be one of us, but if it is, just go ahead and say, like my man did in that commercial, slow down, my brother. This is not the conversation that we want to have right now, because it has been proven that the Celebration Bowl is what everybody should be playing for and trying to get to, because financially and in all kinds of metrics that you want to throw out there, it is a better deal than the FCS playoffs. Now, sure, if we end up with a team in the playoffs by circumstance, by hook or crook, Sure, great. Okay. But until the NCAA decides to change the way that it structures the postseason format for non-FBS schools, what we have is great. It's better than anything else that anyone else is doing, and we should continue to pour into it. And that's all I'll say. That's going to do it for this podcast. Got to thank everybody who interacted with us on YouTube and on Facebook. Appreciate you watching. If you're watching on Twitter, please go download the Jericho Broadcast Network's app on the Google Play and Apple App Store. Just search my JBN and my BCSN. You can also follow the Black College Sports Network on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We'll be showing more Black College basketball games than any other entity this year, as we'll be showing games not only for Benedict College, but for Payne College, Stillman College, Morehouse College, and more.
Miles
So
College.
Miles College. I knew there was somebody I was missing. So continue to support the Black College Sports Network in whatever way you're able to do it. You can go help us by being a part of our fundraiser right now. Go to myjbn.com/grow. That's myjbn.com/grow. Make a donation, be a part of what we have growing there. You can also just simply send some money via Cash App to $myjbn, myBCSN, and support the show. The BCSN Pod Zone is where you can find shows through the course of the week, whether it be our show, Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab, the O&G Strike Zone, the Carlos Brown Show, the pregame show, all of those in audio podcast format on Amazon Music, the Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, everywhere you get podcasts, you can download. Just search BCSN Pod Zone. That's going to do it for tonight. For AD Drew, I'm Bryan Fulford. You guys be safe out there, and hopefully the second week of the year is better than the first week. At least I hope so for me. That's going to do it, guys. Good night. Peace and love to you. Peace out.
Well, holla.
But earmuff, you stay on hard.